Hey, it's your girl Shayla Ray. We're here in Smyrna at Garb Boutique, getting ready to interview April McRae from Sorority Sisters on VH1. It's going to be an interview you don't want to miss. As you know, it's been a lot of backlash about what's been going on. Make sure you stay tuned. What's up? It's Dal Atlanta. It's your girl Shayla Ray. We are here with the beautiful April McRae. How are you, April?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
We are really happy to have you, and we're definitely interested in learning more about the journey that you've had, as of recently. As we know, you are a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Okay, so what drew you, prior to you pledging that organization, what drew you to want to be a part of that particular organization?
Wow. I knew that I was going to be someday a woman of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. So I knew at an early age. It was introduced to me by my family. I come from a Greek family. My mom's an AKA and have aunties. I have an auntie that's an AKA and cousins. So, I knew at an early age. My father's Greek as well. He's a member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. So I come from that family where it was always exposed to me at a very early age. My father crossed Kappa literally the year I was born, back in 1978. He was down at Fort Valley State University. So I was like the face of his fraternity. I was like the Kappa baby. I was always exposed to the Greek life in the Greek community. So I knew then that I was going to be a woman of Alpha Kappa Alpha.
Okay, well, can you tell us a little bit about how long you've been a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha and where you pledged?
Well, I actually ended up pledging graduate chapter because I did not have the opportunity to do it undergrad. And so I've been a member since 2006.
Okay, all right. So you had some time,
Absolutely.
Now, with that being said, we have to talk a little bit about the show. Let's just start at the beginning. How was the show presented to you, and how did you become a part of the project?
Well, the show was initially presented to me via email. I got an email about it, and I responded to the email, sent my information, and I got a phone call immediately. Once my information was submitted, it had been maybe 10 minutes after I sent the email that I got a phone call requesting an interview. And in that interview, there were certain questions that were asked. And I think it was just based on how I answered those questions, based on the things that I have going on in my life. And the presentation of the show was that it was going to be about women who pledged sororities in their life beyond college, their life beyond the sorority. What are you doing now? And so at that time, they were looking for professional women who were possibly entrepreneurs, and women who were still doing things that we were taught in our organizations, like giving back to the community, and still being philanthropic in our works that we do in our day-to-day lives. So for me, I was like, well, that's me. That's what I do. I'm a preacher's daughter, so I'm constantly doing community service. I'm a business owner. I'm the owner of House of Couture Boutique and Global Speech Language Pathology Services. So I have a speech therapy company as well as a boutique. So for me, that was perfect. And then I'm in school getting a clinical doctorate of speech pathology, a doctorate in speech pathology as well. So for me, they were excited about all those different components that I have going on in my life at that time, which I still have those components, and they're still a major factor in my life. And so they were like, wow, you have a lot going on. You're the perfect candidate for a show like this, because we want to show the different aspects of your life, and we want to show, the world that you're doing things beyond just pledging a sorority, because people don't understand that there's a difference between white fraternities and sororities and black fraternities and sororities. We continue to do the things that we do when we pledge, in terms of giving back to the community and just awareness of different causes and things of that nature. So for me, I was like, well, this is a perfect opportunity, because one of my goals in life is to be a philanthropist and to do philanthropic works. So that's why I felt like it was a good fit for me.
And you actually already answered my second question, which was going to be, why did you decide that this was a good project for you? So you pretty much...
Yeah, I mean, the main reason, of course, I've had House of Couture Boutique since 2008. My first location was on Mitchell Street. And then I closed down, decided to go back to school to get a doctorate, and I opened up a second location in Buckhead on Bennett Street. And so for me, that was the perfect opportunity. When I reopened my boutique, I was like, okay, well, this is going to be great for business branding. And all I saw was a business opportunity. I didn't say, oh, you know what, I'm going to go represent my organization. I'm going to speak for every woman in my organization. That was never my intention. That was never the purpose of the show. It was only for us to promote what we're doing beyond college. So that's why I felt like it was going to be a good fit.
Looking back on the show, do you think after seeing the show that they basically showed the show in the way that you would have seen it prior to signing on to do it, or was it just completely different than what you imagined that it would be?
I think a little bit of both. I think that they did try to show the things that we're doing in our personal lives and the things that we're affected by currently in our lives, and they did show the fact that I was in transition with my business because I do have so much going on with school. I am a full-time doctoral student, and I still work full-time as a speech pathologist, and I still style people when I have the opportunity to take clients to style people. And so those three components in my life are very, very, like, they're heavy.
How did you have time to do a show on top of that?
Exactly, and that's why they wanted me, and the fact that I was in transition with my business as well. I'm like, okay, well, let me just finish my doctorate and then go back to the storefront. So I was in transition with putting my boutique online and closing down just temporarily until I finished my doctorate this year. So they wanted to show that. They wanted to show that, okay, well, she's given up on something that she loves, which is my business, which is first. My business is before speech pathology. But financially, my money goes into speech pathology because I'm paying for her education. And so that was the more heavier weighted thing at that time. And so for me, it was just like, you know, I need to transition my business, and I wanted to have that business exposure as well. So that's why I felt like this will be great. Yeah.
Now, do you think there was more negativity on the show than it was, some of those wonderful things that you just stated to us?
You know what? Honestly, I'm gonna be 100 because I'm not fake. I don't know how to be nothing else but April and to be real.
Right.
From the first scenes, when you see a dream coming into my boutique, that was our first time meeting on camera.
Oh, wow.
That was our very first. We didn't know who all was on the show until we had those encounters. Some of the girls probably knew because they went to school together, but I did not know any other girls until I had the encounter. So when I'm in my boutique and you have the director saying, okay, well, this is the scene. You have this great event tonight going on. Your flyers got out around town. Everyone knows about it. You have guests coming, and that's the scene. So I was like, okay, well, that's the scene. That's what I'm, in my head, and I'm going about my business. And then in walks this other business owner. I'm like, huh, she looks familiar. And then someone whispers to me, that's a dream. I'm like, oh gosh, she's on the show. And that was literally my response.
So that all happened. You had no idea.
No idea. And so literally, it caught me off guard when she approaches me. Well, you've had a presence in my boutique, and I'm like, I've had a presence in your boutique. I haven't been in your boutique in years. I don't have a presence in your boutique, and it was because the flyers that people think that I put in her boutique were not physically done by me. It was done by the directors and the producers. They printed out the flyers, they put them in her boutique to create the conflict between us. And I'm like, if people watch TV and they pay attention to the details, at what point would you say, "What? We didn't never see April do that"? But no, they jump on the bandwagon. Oh, she put the flyers in her boutique. So things like that we didn't have the opportunity to defend in a reunion show, like most shows have the opportunity to really get to the truths. We really didn't have that opportunity to defend ourselves.
And do you think you didn't have, well, on top of the backlash of everything, but they kind of don't want, viewers to know that.
Of course not. They don't want to know that it's manipulated. They don't want to know that it's very heavily scripted. They don't want to know that they have cut, stop, say that differently. Say it this way. Say this. Oh, say this about. You don't see that, right. But it is done. And so that's why I sit back and I watch people and I'm like, you know what? We're puppets. We're puppets in the media and TV. They're our puppet masters because we're controlled by what they present and they show us. And we believe it and we buy into the propaganda that this is how these girls are. And it's unfortunate because, when I signed my contract, I know that I didn't have control with editing, but I thought I would have control over what was done in terms of the scenes. I thought I would show my life, not me going back and forth with another woman that's of a sorority.
And you do so many wonderful things. So I think it's fair that, that side of you is shown. So that brings me to my next question. Do you think that you were properly portrayed on this show?
Yes and no. Yes, in the sense that I am a preacher's daughter and I do have a close relationship with my family and my parents, and I do talk to them openly about everything. No, in the sense that all you see is me snapping on somebody. Well, it's because you don't see me initiating anything either. So you see me defending myself against 5 other women of a opposing organization, and you see me being attacked, and you don't see me initiating or starting things with people. So you see the pop off, you see what you see the explosion, but you don't see what works up to that point. It's like that component is missing, and I feel like the editing. Sometimes I've been told, I've been told this is that when you're not compliant with filming, they kind of get you in the editing room. And so I feel like that may have been my downfall. It's about quitting. I quit several times. I walked away several times. I threw my hands up and, didn't return phone calls for months weeks at a time, because I wasn't okay with what was going on. From the first moment that we started filming the pilot, the first episode, the conflict that we had at my store, I was like, why are we starting off with conflict? Why can't we have our conflict organically? We're women. We have huge personalities. At some point, somebody's going to say something that we don't agree with, and we're going to have natural conflict, not something that's going to be created by the hands of the producers or directors. So I don't think that I was really given a fair chance with editing. I feel like the responses are probably how anybody would respond under the situation if you're being provoked or manipulated.
Okay, so in addition to that, let's talk a little bit about the directors and the, kind of people that are behind the scene. Do you feel they kind of knew from the jump how this show was going to go?
It's hard to say with that. I think that the intentions may have been to have a really positive show, but I think that ultimately that wasn't done. I think that we had people who did have our best interests at heart at first, but I think that when they disappeared, it kind of like we switched hands and switched production teams, and I think with
Who disappeared?
some of the people who were involved in this show initially, the pilot, the creation of the show. The creator of the show is a woman of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. She is a soror. The director, she directed the first episode as well. We're in the same chapter.
Wow, and did you know her prior to this?
I did know her prior to it. I did. I knew her prior to it. That's not how I got on the show, though. I didn't know that she was behind the show until I got the interview. And when we met at the interview, it was like, oh, I know you do this too. It was that type situation.
But soon as the backlash kind of surfaced, she was kind of like hands off.
I would say before the backlash. I would say before the show aired. It was kind of like, you know what, I'm not messing with the show. You guys are kind of on your own. I'm just telling you, advising you, you're going to get your letters taken as a result of the show. And I'm like, but you created the show. You did the first episode. It's unfortunate. I'm not a bitter person about that. I don't hold grudges. I don't try to avenge people who do things like that. I believe that karma does that for you. So whatever comes about as a result of the people who were Greek involved on the show and, kind of stepping back, I feel like whatever happens to them will happen to them.
So I take it she wasn't suspended.
Of course not. No, she was not suspended. I don't even think no one knows her name. I don't think her name is even out there.
Interesting, very interesting. I know we can't talk about a lot of details around the suspension, but I did want to know how you found out that you were suspended and how did you feel in that moment?
Unfortunately, I had to inform the world, but I knew before the world knew. I have a very classy sorority, and we communicate. It's nothing messy. It was nothing messy about the suspension. We had conversations prior to it was even being made known public. I knew about the suspension in December. The world didn't find out until mid-January. So it didn't catch me off guard. We had a conversation about the show, and the last part of the conversation, like, well, we'll follow up and we'll see what we're going to do, because right now we just don't know how to respond to this. And the suspension is what it is. It's a suspension. It's not an expulsion. It's two different things. It's 18 months. It's not permanent. So I people who are not Greek don't understand that it does not stop my life from living. It's unfortunate. And I hate that it happened. I hate that it got to that point, because I do love my sorority. And I am a woman of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority for life. And I, regardless of the suspension and the whatever else could possibly come about, I will always show love and solidarity to that sorority.
Now, have your sorority sisters, or even people, let's just even expand it even more, in the Greek world, have they been supportive, or have they been, have you caught a lot of negative backlash from them as well?
It's been a lot of support. I've gotten a lot of support from tons of sorors from across the world. I mean, overseas, inboxing me, sending me emails, and they're like, "Girl, you are our soror regardless. We have your back. We're rooting for you. We're praying for you. We're supporting you." And then you have a few that are kind of like, we don't respect you. And all I do is pray for those women, because I feel like a sisterhood is something that you can't take away. There's nothing that my brother or my sister could ever do in life that will make me disown them. So it makes me feel like, am I a part of a sorority or a club? Because clubs can kick you out. Sororities is sisterhood. That's something that you have for life. And one thing that I believe sisterhood is built on forgiveness. And how can we call ourselves sisters or women of God in general if we don't forgive each other when we fall short, or when we do something that we don't agree, that the other don't necessarily agree with?
Well, being that, there's such a rich history with the Greek organizations and things of that nature, do you think they try to, kind of make an example out of you, because reality TV is this big new thing, and they feel like they don't want anybody after you to go on and, quote unquote, make a bad name for the organization?
Well, they should have stopped at K. Michelle, okay? Seriously, if that's the case. Because you're a member of your sorority despite the name of the show. You're a member of your sorority despite any other project that you can possibly do. If you're doing something on a public TV platform, you should be held to the same level of standard that any other person that's a part of their sorority or fraternity is held to. So she fought people, physically fought people. She cursed them out every season of Love and Hip Hop that she was on, and even on her own personal show. She did. It was called Love and Hip Hop. It's still reality TV, and everybody still knows that she is a member of Delta Sigma Theta. So for me, it's like, it's hypocritical. We live in a world of hypocrites, because you're giving someone a pass for being who they really are, and we're really who we are on Sorority Sisters, but we don't get a pass. It's hypocrisy at its finest. And I have no respect for people who are able to say, "Oh, well, we don't care about her. She doesn't have Delta tattooed on her chest." Yes, she does. She is a member of Delta Sigma Theta. We didn't wear our letters. Nowhere in Sorority Sisters from episode 1 to episode 10 do you ever see us in letters. Do you ever see us throwing up pinkies? Do you ever see us going to any type of sorority-related function? We lived our lives on that show, just the way she lived her life on Love and Hip Hop. And yet, we didn't fight each other. We verbally got into catty arguments, but we reconciled. And people who watch from beginning to the end, they see that. And they actually sent emails back. We're sorry, we jumped the gun. We should have watched the show. We should have given you guys a chance. But they didn't do that. And I feel like, you know what? I don't have respect for people who are so tunnel vision and blinded by the fact that they don't even realize that they're being hypocrites.
We have way more with April McRae. Make sure you stay tuned.